Oh, what's up, everyone? Nobody's here yet, but anyways, it's fine. Um, we're doing sort of like I mean, we've had it planned all day, but it certainly, in the grand scheme of things, it has been it was sort of a last minute thing. It's like, oh, breaking news this morning. We better get on and talk about it tonight. Um, I'm Brent, and once again, I'm joined by Jeremiah, and we are top notch industry insiders who know everything and have the
No.
education and knowledge to commentate on it. No, we don't. We're just a bunch of gamers. Um, and we'll be joined by my buddy Jalen a little later. But we are here to talk today about the breaking news of the surprising news uh,
Yup.
that the CMA decided to not approve the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition, merger, whatever you want to call it. It has been a wild 48 hours, to say the least, because yesterday yesterday you had everyone going, it's going to get passed. CMA is going to approve. CMA is going to approve. CMA is going to approve. It's going to be good. We're going to be good. And then this morning I wake up 7:30 Eastern and I just see breaking. The CMA is blocking the merger, creating I was I was I was incredibly surprised by this,
Yeah.
by that development. So here's the thing, Jeremiah. I was gonna give you a break today. I wasn't gonna message you at all today. Just because it's just like I felt like we all knew like what the results were gonna be, and and then
I
it's like
mean,
I
we were
see.
all thinking past it. We even have our conversation where it's like we're not even thinking about CMA. Well, I think the last full conversation we had about this, we were just focused on the FTC
Hmm.
and like really what they've got back in it, like the reasoning and the whole
Hmm.
political standoff between the FTC and the American government trying to figure out,
I know,
like
right?
why aren't you
America.
supporting American business? Yeah. And it's like we didn't even think about the CMA. We knew it was coming, but like you said, we'd already just considered it a wash.
Hmm.
Um, but it wasn't. And if anyone is confused, just here right out the gate, I'm gonna let you know I am not for this acquisition. I've said it many times. So admittedly, yeah, that's a win.
Um,
I'm not for this, and this is good. I think it is fair too, but we'll get into that.
yeah, and I'm on the same page for it.
Mhm.
Not just like I don't want it to go through, but it's not for the reasons of like, oh, I want to stick it to Microsoft. Um, as someone who definitely prefers Sony, I'm not the kind of person who just wants to stick it to Microsoft. I do believe that like I do believe that that with $70 billion they can do so much more than just buy up a whole bunch of IPs. But at the end of the day, they're acquiring Activision Blizzard. I don't play Activision Blizzard games anymore. I don't play COD. I don't play World of Warcraft. I'm probably going to play Diablo 4. Well, I am going to play Diablo 4. Um, but like that's like the Diablo games are the only games that I like have any kind of investment in, and a new Diablo game usually comes out once every 10 years. So it's not like it only so so Activision Blizzard King only really affects me once a generation. So um so at the end of the
That's
day,
fair.
me personally, I don't really care, but me as a gamer and part of the gaming community, there are definitely some concerns that I have over this over an acquisition such as this. Uh, so yeah, when the announcement came through today, I was like, oh, there was this weird sort of sense of relief, but also like incredible surprise over the whole thing. So,
Yeah.
but it's not over. It's not over. Xbox and Activision, they put out a response saying that they plan on appealing it. However, I did read that only about 10% of appeals when it comes to trade, like like when it comes to like, you know, trade laws, they only about 10% like actually go through. So it's my understanding that it is an uphill battle for Microsoft to get approval from the CMA. But what it does is
Yeah.
they how it works is apparently it goes to court within the UK, and then the court will make a decision, but then that decision gets bounced back to the CMA for approval. So the CMA could still rule against that court's decision. Their courts. I don't know anything about law. I don't know it. I'm not an expert about this. This is just simply from what I've been reading from a bunch of people who probably don't know what they're talking about either. Um, just just to make it completely clear. But that everything that I've read today says that like at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to another CMA decision after it goes to court. And it's my understanding from everything that I've read today that only about 10% of those do get approved. So this leaves us with the EU and the FTC as the two final major parties, and everyone already knows what the FTC plans on doing. They've already opted to sue Microsoft over this,
Mhm.
and then I guess the EU makes a decision sometime next month.
I mean, I mean, and I only really got a chance to look at it towards the end. I wanted to look up a quote that I'd seen because apparently an Activision Blizzard representative made a statement. And it's pretty long, but ultimately the tagline is being taken as the UK is closed for business. You know,
Yeah, I don't know
uh,
what that means. I don't know. Like,
pretty.
I,
I mean, pretty much they're saying it was a one-sided decision from what I'm saying. I
mhm.
mean, the full thing. Let me get back up to it. The CMA's report contradicts the ambitions of the UK to become an attractive country to build technology businesses. We will work aggressively with Microsoft to reverse this on appeal. The report's conclusions are a disservice to UK citizens who face increasingly dire economic prospects. We will reassess our growth plans for the UK. Global innovators, large and small, will take note that despite all of its rhetoric, the UK is clearly closed for business. So what they're trying to say is, I mean, honestly, that last bit is just trying to say it's only a quote fair market if Sony is on top. But when Microsoft starts making strides to become a competitor, suddenly there's just no business that can go around. Which, that's
So
what they're implying.
I'm
That's
I'm
I
cu-
mean, that's the rhetoric that people are trying to make anyways.
so did you read the CMA's response?
Oh, I was reading through a few of it. The one that was notable to me was when they called out the Call of Duty to Nintendo.
Hmm.
And that one, though a little shaky, because like there's no evidence to support that it could technically run it.
Right.
And I'm like, I mean, there's no support that says it can't either. Anything
Right.
can be dropped in resolution, but I do agree that calling it out because like that wasn't on Nintendo to begin with. And one of the concerns about it being on Nintendo is not just the technology, the hardware to run it, but also the servers and how they would do with a game such as Call of Duty. We already have issues with servers in one-on-one fights on Smash Brothers on a very low effort fighting game. And you're telling me you can get
Hmm.
about 20 different switches and 20 different places together to fight each other in an online arena? That's not happening. I'm sorry. Like it's like I don't agree that it would have gone smoothly to Nintendo, and I do think that that was a good call out. That was just posturing, in my opinion.
Well,
Just to be
let's.
like, no, we're doing it for everybody. It's like, well, yeah, by that point, I could say I was going to put Call of Duty on a Tamagotchi, and you just shake, to run your guy. Like, but it's like at the end of the day, it's not going to run.
Right.
So
Let's see what this Polygon article has to say. So,
let's go there.
okay. So we'll go through this and we'll kind of comment on things. Um,
Yeah.
okay. UK regulator blocks 68.7 billion Microsoft Activision deal. The Competition and Markets Authority said acquisition would lead to reduced innovation and less choice in cloud gaming. Despite recent signs that that it was softening its stance on Microsoft's proposed 68.7 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard, the UK antitrust regulator, the Competition and Markets Authority, has announced that it has decided to formally block the deal. The CMA said its decision was motivated by concerns that the deal's effect on the future of nascent cloud gaming market. The nat
I need a box. I need a charging box.
Give me one moment. Sorry, man.
No problem. Water break.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. So,
Anyways,
yeah, the CMA said the decision was motivated by concerns that the deal's effect on the future of nascent cloud gaming market, where Microsoft is a key player. It feared the deal would lead to reduced innovation and less choice for UK gamers over the years to come. Okay, so it said that a solution proposed by Microsoft had sufficient shortcomings and would require regulatory oversight by the CMA. Quote, Microsoft has a strong position in cloud gaming services, and the evidence available to the CMA showed that Microsoft would find it commercially beneficial to make Activision games exclusive to its own cloud gaming service, the government body said, announcing the findings of its months-long review. Yeah, I mean that's like a big concern. That's kind of always been like a big concern of everybody's, like when or if they will ever make Activision Blizzard King games exclusive. Everyone's like, they're not going to make it exclusive. They're not going to make it exclusive. It's like, well, like they have every right to make it exclusive if they so choose. All these deals that they made, they're only for 10 years. They're only for 10 years. Who knows what will happen after 10 years? That is
so it's hard to give it that one, because as you keep going on, they talk about how the sector will change over a 10-year period.
Oh yeah.
I believe that's a baseline for it. So the deals themselves being for 10 years is not what's being pulled into question, right? What's being pulled into question is the fact of they're starting their own monopoly on a service that has not yet really been fully explored in cloud gaming.
Yeah.
As it says in the next part, it reckons Microsoft accounts have an estimated 60 to 70% of global cloud gaming services already, thanks to the advantages of owning Xbox, Windows, and the Azure platform, as well as the Game Pass game subscription service to which Xbox Cloud Gaming is tied. The CMA views cloud gaming as an important, fast-growing sector of the games market that allows gamers to avoid buying expensive consoles and presents them with more flexible and choices as to how they play. And then in the next one, just to paraphrase for it, like although they brought in remedies and stuff, they don't feel like they touched enough business models such as subscriptions and risk disagreements between Microsoft and other cloud gaming providers. Given the amount of change that might happen over the sector of 10-year periods, like that's great. To be honest, that's even something that I was looking past. But if you think about all the things they've been doing over the last month alone and getting all of those different properties for cloud gaming services and just like streaming services in general, it's fair. Maybe they played their hand a little too quick on that, Like, I'm worried about the mobile aspect, but the cloud gaming is definitely something that we've all seen them going like strides in, like acquisition. I say acquisition, but yeah, like buying in a few days, different companies, and pulling in different things. So that's a good catch in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's a great catch.
Yeah. Okay. So, wow, this is a lengthy article.
As I kept going because it caught my attention with the behavioral models. Like, excuse me, and so I read that and I had to go back up for it. Oh,
What's up?
there's an update. So after the article was
Okay.
made,
Oh, yeah.
Bobby
This is
Kotick,
from
you got
Bobby
to
Kotick.
say?
Activision Blizzard's CEO Bobby Kotick said the CMA's decision isn't the news we wanted, but it is far from the final word on this deal. In an email to staff that was made public, he also implied that Microsoft would withhold investment in AI technologies in the UK if the deal wasn't improved. You can read the full statement here. So this is a statement from Bobby Kotick
That
that's written.
sounds almost like coercion or, hostage taking, really. But that sounds like a threat. Like, okay, well, if
Yeah.
you don't let me have my way, I'm gonna stomp my feet, and I'm not doing the dishes tonight. Come on now.
So like I know that like I understand that Microsoft wants to do other things within the gaming sphere other than making games. But
Mhm.
like I don't know, I'm not a big fan, like, and I like to use this analogy, like I'm not a big fan of like the rich teenager coming in and using daddy's money to buy his way onto the football team. Like like um it like I remember like being in high school, like, and I think I don't know if said this to you once, but I remember being in high school, and I did track and field, and I threw shot put and discus, and the only way for me to get good at shot put and discus is like I practiced, and I practiced and I practiced, and I was in suitable shape back then, and I did fairly good. So like in my opinion, like yes, 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 words. Hang on, I'm trying to find the right words here. So yeah, yes, Microsoft has a really great product in Game Pass, but Game Pass is just simply a platform. Game Pass is just simply a platform, and the only way that platform actually has anything, um, what is this? Come on, Caitlin, what are you sending me? Oh, that's nice. So but the only way that platform can actually have anything on it is if like they have games that they can provide. And
Mhm.
they've had such bad luck developing games from their own studios that the only way that they can fill that platform up with games that will stay is to buy those intellectual properties. And I don't know. I think buying your way into first place is not appropriate, and they've had 20 years. Come on, they've had 20 years. That like Microsoft has only been in the the gaming business for about what 4 or 5 years less than Sony has. Um so it's just like what have they been doing for 20 years? What have they been doing for 20 years? I think most importantly, like what have they been doing for the past 5 years? Which
I
is
mean, let's be fair. In the Xbox One era, they were trying to push a more inclusivity situation where everyone does everything,
mhm,
Sony, of course, didn't share that mentality, and
mhm,
that's fair. Everyone makes their decision.
yeah,
An argument could be made that Sony already has monopoly in Japan versus if we're taking the high performance console, war
mhm,
here between the two, because there's nobody who's outright going to support Xbox in Japan.
mhm,
You know, like that's straight up a Sony thing. And we've had many discussions about cultural differences. But in business, it's not about culture, it's about business. And so
mhm,
I can understand why some people are going into that stance. I've seen that today. It's like, can we talk about the monopoly over there then? If you're so worried about how we just end exclusivity and blah, blah, blah. But my thing is, there is oh, hey, there is a difference
Hello, sorry.
between
yo,
what's up,
By all
man?
means,
what's Jalen? You're cutting a little out, and welcome. the full crew is here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. What's going on?
Okay. Oh, nothing, man. It's going. Sorry, I'm late. But please, I didn't mean to interrupt. Please finish.
No. What I was saying was, like, I think there is a stark difference between what they've cultivated over the years and then just buying in at the last second here, and cornering a market that neither of them had ever really touched before because of how big it already was,
Right.
Blizzard is just a big mogul that you think about. Activision is a big player in the game that was accessible to both the so and King, that's not accessible to either of them, That's why there's concern for this. There are so many, and I think this CMA report really showed there's so many unknown variables that you just have to assume it's going to be unfair, as Sony doesn't have a game in any of that. And to promote fair business, they've got to regulate it. I think that this was a fair look at it. I understand people aren't going to necessarily agree, but the fact they were willing to hear them out and even point out, hey, cool, they already started with their action plan before we had our assessment, and now we're looking into that, I think it was pretty decent. But Jalen, welcome. It's nice to finally be on a cast with you. What's up?
As he mentioned me.
Yeah. So what Jalen? What are your thoughts on all of this? I know that Jalen is in one of my is in a group chat with me, and he has his own thoughts on the matter. Most of it is like, God, when will it freaking end? But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
My thoughts on this is, look, I'm gonna, out of both of you, I probably know the least about this whole situation. I mean, I know the bits and pieces, right? But I don't feel like I don't think I know as much the brother over here as he was going off a second ago. So I can't really comment too much on this. All I'm gonna say is it's just going on for so long. It's annoying me seeing it on all my YouTube and Instagram feeds. I just kind of wanted to wrap up and be done. And while I'm mostly, to say I'm pro Xbox is strong because Xbox has made a lot of stupid decisions the last couple years. I think Atwood Media puts it really good. I think Brett puts it really good. I want Xbox to succeed, but I don't want this deal to go through if it's going to be another Disney situation. And I say that as in the power hold that Disney has over the entire movie industry is legitimately scary. Now, I don't think with this purchase that Xbox will get there yet. So that's why I'm not completely opposed to it yet. But what scares me is that if they are able to get away with this, they will be able to get away with a lot more. So I guess in the end of the day, I'm happy that everyone in the party is taking their time, seeing all the sides, making sure that if this does happen, there isn't going to be one definitive what's the word I'm looking for? One definitive power hold over the gaming in industry. I know I'm kind of rambling off, but am I making any sense?
No, I get what you're saying. No. I absolutely get what you're saying. Yeah, and like everyone's always arguing that, like, yeah, okay, so there's a reason why. There is a reason why Sony is quote unquote in first place. There's a reason. And that's because they put out okay, the best example of this is like, okay, so Xbox is struggling with getting 60 frames per second with their games. Okay, they're struggling with that. I have not seen a single PlayStation. I have not seen a single PlayStation first party game launch without 60 frames per second. One thing that Sony's doing is that I always really like is that they don't make promises they can't keep. And they continuously put out high quality games that people want to play and people want to complete. Actually, so a buddy of mine and Jalen actually sent me this really funny sort of breakdown of this rough month that Xbox has been having. And it starts with Ghostwire Tokyo runs worse on Xbox than PS5. No, it's just it's not it's I don't know about that one. I'm sure I don't know how. I think you have to be like, I think you have to have an eye for those kinds of things to really notice, but I don't know. Down in console sales. Did we all see the quarterly earnings yesterday?
Mhm.
It's rough. The only thing that they're up in is they're up 3% in services, so Game Pass. Not getting Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster, Live Alive, Mega Man Battle Network, and Oxenfree 2. Redfall 30 frames per second at launch, middling previews, etc. Now I don't know about that one. Well, I think a lot of the last minute previews have been fairly positive. CMA blocks Activision Blizzard deal. It's a bit of a rough month for them. And hopefully, and depending on how Redfall ultimately does come, average reviews for Redfall could sort of cap it all off.
I genuinely think that Redfall is going to either make or break Xbox. It's going to. I know people think it's Starfield, but I really think it's Redfall, because you really can't pull them in with your first party exclusive of the year and your first one since like 2021. I just have a feeling that like a lot of people are going to lose a lot more interest.
Thoughts on that, Jeremiah?
Wasn't the first party exclusive Hi-Fi Rush?
Well, yeah, but here's the thing, because I'm not sure if Brett told you, but
he knows. He knows my opinion. He knows my opinions on Hi-Fi Rush. But no,
my opinions.
Yeah,
I love Hi-Fi Rush with a passion. I think it's legitimately one of my favorite games to come out in a long time. Personally, just me personally. But I think that's why I'm more frustrated with Xbox now, because I've never believed the stance that Xbox doesn't put out games. That's not what I believe. I think the issue is that they don't put out the console selling games, which is the major issue. Like, I can name like a bunch of legitimately quality indie games that like Xbox has like put out. Ori and the Will of the Wisp, Hi-Fi Rush. That's not indie. That's more AA. But Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment and Immortality from last year, freaking Psychonauts 2, which is multi-platform but was made by Xbox Game Studios. All legitimate games, but even I can admit, I can sing praise to Hi-Fi Rush and Ori for hours, but I will admit, those aren't the reasons I bought my Xbox. They aren't. They're more like the appetizers that I was looking forward to. Give me my freaking Avowed, my Hellblade 2, my freaking Redfall at 60 frames per second, please. My Starfield. And it just feels like the way Xbox is rolling, it's not delivering. And because Brett Brett put it right on the money. Xbox needs to stop making these empty promises. That's what frustrates me so much. They keep talking all this crap and nonsense, and then when they don't follow through on it, they wonder why everyone is so upset.
I mean, a lot of Xbox gamers, I feel, don't get as upset as they should. I feel like a lot of passes have gone to Xbox over the years, especially during the Xbox One. Though, admittedly, there was some slight bullying on Sony's side at the beginning. It still doesn't change the fact that nothing came from it. It was funny.
That was hilarious. Sorry. Oh my God.
It's two businesses, and you got You got tricked, you got bullied, it happens, but you
J-
had a chance to come back on it, and
Jalen,
it
you're
never
about
happened.
I think you would have been maybe 13 or 14 at this time, so it's possible that you don't remember what happened. You might know just simply from gaming history. So at the start of the PS4 Xbox One generation, about 6 months prior to the launch of the two systems, there was a lot of discussion about how you couldn't share games. Once you bought the game and once the game's been loaded to your system, there would be like something weird encoded within the system or within the game or whatever that would not allow you to share that game with someone else. It's like, oh, you want to borrow a game from me? Here, sure, you can borrow it. No, that wouldn't, like, you couldn't do that anymore.
And the digital, like they were talking about the fully digital age, like some games being full digital, that were
mhm,
big titles. I remember that was the main crux, because GameStop really jumped in with a lot of opinions on that. Like,
mhm.
hold on here, full digital does not look good for us,
No.
because their whole yeah.
So
But anyway,
and then another thing that Xbox and Microsoft said, that the Xbox One would be always online, always online.
Mhm.
That it's just I still will always remember that guy's response to that question. It's like, he's like, oh, you want to play games? It's like, you want to play games off the internet? Well, you got a console for that, the Xbox 360. And I was like, dude, you can't say that. You can't say that. Anyways, so what happened was at E3, I think that would have been E3 2013, or yeah. And
2014.
oh, was E3 2014? I thought it was
Hmm.
2013. I thought I
It may have
thought
been 20. Let me
I
see.
thought they launched in 2014 or 2013. Anyways, so in E3 2013 or 2014, whatever, um Microsoft's
2013. That is
it was
definitely 20. All
2013.
you have to look up is the PlayStation game instructional video.
So what happened was, at the Microsoft's showcase was first, and
Big Hit Monday.
Microsoft did their showcase. They announced I think they announced the Xbox One at $400. And they announced the whole, like, locking games to the system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, yada, 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 so on. The next, was it? No, I think it was literally
Same day.
it was
Same day.
same day.
20 minutes after they said we're pushing more for a digital age and digital identification authentication. 20 minutes later, a commercial pops up in the middle of it, which is literally two guys from Sony going, "Hey, here's how you share games with Sony." Hands it to his friend. "Thanks, buddy." And
Yeah,
it's
it was
great.
because like literally within minutes of that announcement, bloggers, YouTubers, like, it was everywhere. Complete utter disapproval. And then icing on the cake, Sony marked the PlayStation 4 down $100. PlayStation so Xbox One launched at 400, the PlayStation 3 or the PlayStation 4 launched at 300. I believe that's accurate, or is it $100 more on each end? Was the Xbox One 500 and the PlayStation 4 was 400?
I know that I remember was that the PlayStation 4 was cheaper, and I
Yeah, the
was like,
PlayStation
"Oh
4
my
was
god, like,
$100 cheaper.
what a
I
G
bought my
move,"
PlayStation. It cost me $399, so I think it was
At launch.
400 for PlayStation. Yeah. Well, no,
So
not at launch. My
so
PlayStation Slim.
Oh, okay. So then, yeah, that would mean that. So it launched at how much? $399. You bought it for $399.
Yeah, and it wasn't a
Okay.
sale either.
Okay. So that means that the Xbox One was $499, $100 more. It was $500. So that was hilarious. I remember I was watching that E3. That was freaking hilarious. So do you remember that? You might have been kind of young for that, to really be paying attention to that.
I don't remember that specific. I remember there was a lot of beef with the Xbox and PlayStation 4. I remember that they both had a pretty rough launch, but PlayStation got it sooner. But that particularly, no, I don't remember that. That sounds funny.
No, it
does
was
sound pretty
hilarious. It was hilarious. Anyways, what was the point that I was trying to make with all that? So some other things. So so it's been an interesting day. It's been a really interesting day on Twitter. And there's so many gamers that just don't simply understand how business works. And they're like, Xbox should just pull out of the UK. Like, that's not how that works. It's like
I mean, it does make sense, and again, that's just one of the things because the UK and Britain and over there is more of a Sony base. You
Mhm.
know, that's why it's a really big deal when something gets dropped. When the ball gets dropped when it comes to the UK, you know,
Mhm.
that's why, like, remember last year they started talking about that $6 million lawsuit or whatever for the UK. Why it's a big deal is because that's a hub for Sony, you know. I get it
Mhm.
to a point, but my thing is, I mean, that's just what they've got. That was their business strategy, was to grab two pretty big powers and be the biggest things there, you know? I
You can't
mean,
hate the play, right? Okay.
exactly. Well, that's
Uh,
my thing. That's my thing about all this. So we've had many discussions about the, like, people talk about the Sony buyout blocking. They talk about this acquisition. I have no issue with these things from a business perspective because it's just business. You know, it
mm,
is two businesses doing their job, doing what they're supposed to do. They're not doing illegal things like laundering money or some gangsta stuff, I guess. But like, they are just being business. Business is not meant to be good or bad. It's just meant to, you know, generate money. It's meant to make their plans to generate more money, you know, and to do these. Like, I don't disagree with them, and I don't see them from a morality standpoint, you know. But as you had pointed out before, I guess just say I don't have any issue with them, or like, not letting Microsoft into to Japan necessarily. It's not them; it's Japan itself that makes that decision. You know, that's something you've never fully pursued because you've already seen it as a wash. You're not going to try. You know, same
it's
thing with
like,
the UK.
I think people need to stop crying over Japan. Xbox needs to market over there better. Okay, like,
Okay, that you've said that before. I do not agree with that. They can't. The
yeah,
major media platforms will not allow that to happen. An American company coming in trying to take over Sony or anything that's Japan made, that's not happening. They have too much control over that.
mhm.
you also
I
gotta
can't
understand, brother.
agree with
Like,
that.
you also gotta understand, brother. And again, I probably know less than both of you, so just humor me. PlayStation, Nintendo, those are the big two of Japan. To
Yeah, well,
have
sure.
to kind of have an American studio who, when did Xbox start? 2000, right? 1990 or late 1990s.
I think the Xbox. I think the original Xbox came out in 2001. Does
Yeah,
that
so you
sound
gotta
right?
understand that Nintendo, they've been trucking since like early 1990s and late 1980s, if I'm not mistaken.
Well,
It's gonna be really tricky for Xbox to get their hold in there, if any hold, and it would take a long time. A
well,
long time.
in the video game world, Nintendo has been out there since the late 80s. But Nintendo has actually been, in fact, been in existence since the late 1800s. They used to do playing
What?
cards.
No,
Yeah,
really?
you can look it up. Yeah,
That's pretty dope.
yeah,
That's crazy.
yeah. Not trading cards. They used to do. Did I say trading cards? I meant like deck
Playing
of
cards.
playing cards. Okay.
Mhm.
But no, I mean, yeah, but like, I know that like I watched some of those like congressional hearings about like people, like, it's like, well, like, why can't it was like, why, basically they're like wondering why Xbox isn't doing any business in Japan. And it's just like, apparently there's like some digital trade agreement that they claim that Xbox isn't honoring, when I feel like I can make an argument that in fact they are arguing that they are honoring. They're just not honoring it with Xbox. They're honoring it with Steam and Epic. um, um, so it's just like this whole idea is like, well, Square Enix should be giving stuff to Xbox. It's like, well, I'd be like, well, if you want to play Square Enix games, you got to either buy a PlayStation or you got to buy a PC. It's like just like how I got to have an Xbox or a PC to play Starfield in a few months. Redfall next week.
I mean,
I'll give
that's a more recent development, and the problem is, like, if you take one stance, you can't really take the other stance. Like, for instance, when we first started talking about this, like, y'all made this, so you took it away from Sony and stuff. It's like, yeah, well, you can't take either stance on either side, in my opinion. You know,
Mhm.
if you're okay with one company being totally exclusive to a certain console, then you can't be upset when another company goes to another console. You know, and I say that for both sides, you know. Xbox can't sit here and complain about Square Enix, in my opinion, because Square Enix and Sony have pretty much, I know we've talked about this, been embedded with each other for a long time. They both literally supported each other's growth and ability to continue thriving, you know, continue working, you know.
Mhm.
I don't see that as much of a business proposal as just a partnership, you
Yeah.
know. They both did amazing things. I feel that's the same. Bethesda went back to Xbox, and Todd Howard's even said that they have the focus on Xbox. They're bringing it home. You know, if these are the statements of the two companies, we can only accept it as such, even though we might
Sure.
not feel that. Yeah, even though we feel like there
Yeah,
might be more to it. You know.
Do you, now? Do you guys? Were you gonna say something, Jalen?
Oh, I was just gonna say that everything that he said. Well, first off, everything that you said, Juicy J. I like that
What's up?
name. Everything that you said, Juicy J, is facts. Yeah, like that's kind of why whenever I see these conversations, because Atwood Media, I keep calling you that, Brett. Sorry,
Brent with an N.
huh?
With an N.
Is
Oh,
it
isn't that what it's?
no
Oh,
Xbox
Brent.
fan?
Brent.
Get out of here! No,
Yeah.
No, but there's a reason why whenever I see these conversations sort of in our Instagram chat, I kind of do my best to stay out of it. Not necessarily because I'm pro Xbox, but just necessarily because because there are people that try to get me in these Xbox debates too, saying that, oh, Xbox is like doing no wrong here, and I kind of stay silent in that too. Because I try really hard not to take a stance on this stuff, because I feel like if you do support one side really heavy, then you can't really complain too much about the other side. I kind of want to stay in the middle, because I kind of see where people are coming from the both sides. And two, I just wanted to respond that if Xbox was ever gonna try and get a better foothold in Japan, I feel like now best chance, because they just put out freaking what they got, Tango Gameworks now. They put out Hi-Fi Rush, which I know isn't as Japanese games like go, like a JRPG or anything, but it's good. It's a game that really helped to introduce this sort of Japanese produced games on the Xbox, and it got a lot of hype, a lot of critical reception. I just have a feeling that now Tango Gameworks is going to be the premier Xbox like Japanese company. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and well, what's interesting is like a lot of the Xbox fans are saying is like that Xbox should go after one of the major Japanese publishers like Square Enix, Sega, or Bandai Namco.
They're not.
It's like
That's
no,
ridiculous, Steven. That's just stupid. They're not getting Square.
Sega's in the business of pachinko, and I don't think Microsoft wants anything to do with that. You know, like I don't. So it's like Sega had everyone on and Capcom's another one too. It's like Capcom. Did you like Resident Evil 4 remake sold like freaking hotcakes, mostly on PS4 or PS5? Is like do you really think that any of it, and then like do you really think that any of these companies will give up such a large, I mean, especially since in Japan everyone has PlayStations in Japan. Everyone has PlayStations and everyone has Nintendos. Like they're not gonna be like, oh, we're gonna sell to we're gonna sell to the company that has absolutely no presence in our country. I mean, I think the only way I think the only way that any of those companies would ever sell to Microsoft is they'd have to open up the checkbook massively. But then again, I doubt that any of the Japanese regulatory agencies or the government would even allow it to begin with. But I have been doing some reading stating that it is possible for that to for an American company to go in. I just don't think that they could go in and buy something so big.
I mean, shoot, it's taking them a minute, but let's be real. Xbox is going to get Activision. So if Xbox can make a purchase that's that big, I really don't think anything is too far off the table.
Well, it's going to take about another year for Activision. It's going to take about another year. And that is so here's what, so you missed out on this conversation. You missed out on the beginning. Here's what needs to happen. Okay. So, first of all, for them to have any sort of way forward, they need to get approval from the EU. Okay. The European Union. So they need to get approval there. Which there's apparently supposed to be, they're supposed to have their decision by sometime next month. So sometime in May. 2, they're going to appeal the CMA decision. However, I was reading multiple different articles today stating that there's a 10% success rate on appeals with the CMA. So, so that is a hardcore uphill battle. And even if a judge rules that it is okay in the UK, it still gets bounced back to the CMA, and then the CMA will make the final decision again. So it's a 10% success rate on appeals with CMA. The FTC has already made its decision. They're going to block it. So right now there's two regulatory agencies that are blocking it, 2 major ones. And we don't even know what the EU will do. It's possible that the EU is waiting to see what the CMA did to make a decision. So, but that's still kind of up in the air. Everyone's already saying it's like the EU will save us, but we don't know. I mean, they all thought that about the CMA yesterday. Like everyone was saying, the CMA will pass. So honestly, we're back to like 50-50. And we won't know for about another year, because apparently these kinds of proceedings could last over a year. And then of course, unless and then of course, like there's a deadline, and if the deadline isn't met by, I think, sometime in July, Microsoft owes Activision Blizzard $3 billion. So it's not it's. I'm sure, like I still think that it's going to happen, but it's going to be a long time. It's going to be a while before we know for sure.
I hear that.
Hey, so I don't want to be all like technically correct here, but you said that everyone owns PlayStations and Nintendos, but tell that to 400,000 consoles sold in Japan, sir. That's 4% of the high, like it's 96-4. I like you said, like, no, I remember seeing this number. It was such a funny, like, where Xbox just had to say it's a blowout, And I was like, what was that low number? Be like 4% supporting them. 4% of gamers over there are supporting Xbox for no reason.
Well,
it's more just a joke. Like, I wanted to point that out. Like, it was definitely like Xbox even came out like, yeah, it's a blowout. Like it's good game. Like there's no way. Like there was no foothold to begin with.
I mean, there is a certain, so Jalen, to your comment about like, if the Activision Blizzard deal does eventually go through, that like nothing's stopping them from doing anything else. There is a certain level of truth like that. I think that some people might need to be concerned about some of those big places in Japan. I know that a lot of people are talking about Sega. I would be really frustrated if they got Sega, because that would mean Persona would become an Xbox exclusive after being on PlayStation for 25 years. But like, if in my opinion, if Microsoft got Activision Blizzard and then continued to buy, I think people need to start being mad. I think people need to start being mad. Even Xbox players should be mad, because they're all talking about how Microsoft isn't a monopoly, but like if they're allowed to continue to make purchases unchecked, they will become a monopoly.
I agree.
Yeah. A weak leader makes poor walls. Even if they make a monopoly under the idealism that I've seen, where they're like, oh, but Xbox just lets their companies do what they want to do. Like they don't, they're a hands off approach. Like you go do your thing. Like they're still like, you still own them, and ownership to the failures of these companies are on you. Same with the successes, I guess. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that they would make really good leaders, since they haven't displayed they'd be a good leader to begin with.
I mean,
So I'm
Brother,
still worried about
in
Xbox has
the
been disappointed as of late. Yeah, you're right. Because Xbox has shitty leaders.
Xbox keeps bleeding talent. Xbox keeps bleeding talent. They like, in the past, just this year, I think they've lost like 4 or 5 people in high ranking positions within several. I mean what? Like 3 or 4 weeks after the release of Hi-Fi Rush, the guy who founded Tank, what was his name? He started the Resident Evil series. What was his name?
But I know who you're talking about. Basically, the head honcho.
Yeah.
But in response to that,
Shinji
to
Mikami.
play the other side,
Shinji Mikami. Yeah.
I was
Shinji
told-
Mikami left.
Sorry.
I heard
Sorry,
that
Joe.
he.
Go ahead.
I said sorry, Joe. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, I was just saying that he was reportedly trying to leave for a long time. He was trying to leave before the Bethesda acquisition, if I'm not mistaken. He only stayed and left after Hi-Fi Rush. And again, this is just what I saw, what I heard. I think even one of our guys in the chat said it. It's because he wanted to see if they could do well without him, if Hi-Fi Rush would be able to sell, and it did.
It didn't.
Well, okay, it did enough. It did enough.
No, it didn't.
So,
Jeremiah and I have the data to prove it.
But by the way, do you know that Jeff Grubb actually came out with a video, and he said that what he said got way construed out of proportion? At least that's what he said.
Yeah, I'm not talking about Jeff Grubb. I'm not talking about Jeff Grubb. I'm talking about completion rate. I'm talking about the community and the completion rate of Hi-Fi Rush.
We were looking at those numbers last night, and it was pretty interesting.
No.
Like to me, because I'm with you, Jalen. When we're talking about Hi-Fi Rush, I love that game. I stand for that game.
My man, yeah.
Brent knows that. I actually do. I thought the comedy was great. I feel like this game is a predecessor to a Scott Pilgrim interactive platforming game, and not just like this like Streets of Rage style. I think this is opening up for so many different options. I think the pop culture references are amazing. The music is fantastic. I love playing the game, and I'm going up in the different difficulties. I start on hard, and I'm going up from it. But I can't deny that, and honestly, it was disheartening last night. We looked at the completion rates. Brent brought to my attention that apparently only 7%, between 7 and 8% of people had actually completed the game on normal. And then, collectively, only 12.8% of the people who have downloaded the game on Xbox have completed the game in its entirety over all the completions.
So the reason how we got that figured out was based off the final boss fight, the achievement for completing the final boss fight. So essentially, 7% of people have completed the game on normal, but a total of like 12% have beaten the final boss, meaning that some people beat the final boss the first time on other difficulty levels. So 12% of those who have pressed start on Hi-Fi Rush on the Xbox have beaten the final boss.
It's not even just that too. Something really interesting that we found. Remember the when we went through every boss, just over 50% of people have beaten the QA 100, like the first level.
Yeah, I
And
actually
then
looked.
and then only 30% have beaten Rekka. And it's
You,
like that's number 2. You know, like that's track
yeah,
2. And then it just goes down from there. It's like, what? You know, because like I hear nothing but good things. So I expected personally, I
Yeah.
expected a lot more like completion. But Xbox gamers do have the attention span of a goldfish when it comes to jumping between games. Like we do. Like we do. I have an Xbox Series X. I jump between games. I haven't beaten Persona 5 Royal. That being said, I just kind of find it harrowing that we have so many positive reviews. And my question is, how can you review something so like highly, but you only played the first level? You know, like I need
The
like
Mhm.
tutorial level too. Ooh.
yeah, it was a tutorial that didn't even give you all access to all your mechanics, like your parry.
That's what
Your
Mm.
yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. I've monopolized. What are your thoughts on that, Jalen?
Nah, man, you're because the thing is, Brent got in my head the other day when I saw that, so I looked into it myself, and he was absolutely right, because you're right. 50% beat QA 1 mil, only 30% beat Rec. I think only 16% made it to Mimosa, which ironically is when the game actually gets like really good
Really
after
good.
Mimosa. It gets really and then and then only 10% of people beat Roquefort, which is
Yeah,
a shame. But because
yeah.
you're
Well,
right, man. It
it's in
is.
that 12% range. That where it levels out at Mimosa. And my thing is like the Corsica fight and freaking Rockfort. They are the two fights that everyone wanted to do after hearing certain things. Or like I
Mhm.
definitely wanted to fight Corsica the whole time. Like there's just
Listen,
something about it, you know. Like
I because listen, it is disheartening to me, because I acknowledge that Hi-Fi Rush is going to be niche, and it probably won't be in many people's conversation for Game of the Year, personally. But as of now, the only other game, this is how much I love Hi-Fi Rush. The only other game that is on par with Hi-Fi Rush in terms of personal love, of how much I connected with it, is Resident Evil 4. And because
And that's a
Hi-Fi Rush,
remake.
it's a
Doesn't
game
count.
that it is a game that starts off solid, but just like with Scott Pilgrim, the movie, every single encounter and every boss just gets bigger and better and better. And you don't even know. I feel like even when you get to the second section of the game, you don't even really know what you're in store for. Because once you get to Corsica, and especially once you get to Roquefort, it was at the Roquefort fight. I was like, okay, this is Game of the Year material. Okay, I get it now. I get it.
before it
But
opens your eyes to it, it's beautiful.
no,
Now
I was just saying it is.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that it's sad though, for such a creative game that literally has passion pouring out of every piece of it, that people on Xbox have such low attention spans. And I think Game Pass is kind of to blame for that. And it's Game Pass, and it's the quick resume option. Because people are kind of be like, oh, okay, I can pause that game, just hop into another, then come back in like a couple hours. Then they start getting into that game. Then they forget about the other game. Then they go to a new one. It's just constantly going back and forth. Hi-Fi Rush, it deserves a little better.
And it's like my whole big issue was like literally an entire community was basically calling this game the second coming of Christ. And it is on average 10-hour game, give or take. It's like, why haven't more people completed this? You can do it in a weekend, a day. Like
If you're really committed, yeah, you can't do it. But
Well, if you got the mental fortitude, so that's one of those games you like to savor Hi-Fi Rush like a fine wine. I could not do multiple levels in a day. Every time I beat a level, I wanted to sit there and like think like that was really fun, or I wasn't really a fan of this, but that was pretty funny. Like, what were these things? I might even go back and watch some of the cut scenes on a YouTube, on a YouTube video or something like that. So that way I can like some of the things I found were hilarious. Did that a lot with Zaza,
Mhm.
so I could see every freaking Dio reference,
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that
I
was
will say,
good.
but I do agree with you in terms of time. Like we looked at the time last night. It's like, yeah, it's like a what, 10, 11 hours,
Yeah, give or take.
give or
It
take.
took
And
me on my first playthrough like 12, but yeah, about 10 to 11. It's in that time frame. Yeah.
I think I took more than that because when you found out about like the side missions and stuff, it's just. But
Mhm.
either way, I'm just sitting here and I can go on and on about it. My thing is though, it's like yeah, you call it game of the year, but you're not playing it.
Right.
A game of the year. If you're going to call game of the year, and that's where we had a discussion, of course, before this, where I brought that up to, of course, our podcast, one of our people, Jacob. Shout out if you're watching. If you're not watching, how dare you? And but he was bringing up is like does that really matter with Xbox, which is more of a multiplayer platform? My wife said the same thing, and it's like I get it, certain games, because we did look up games like Halo Infinite, to see uh, achievements for multiplayer versus campaign mode. Like we expect there to be a disparity there, and of course they showed out for that. It was like 20 to 30% on certain achievements. It's like yeah, the multiplayer obviously takes the aspect for that, and Xbox is still considered that even in this day and age, where PlayStation definitely meets the same
Mhm.
criteria. But if you're going to claim game of the year, I do expect game of the year numbers.
Mhm.
God of War was
That's fair.
game of year contender, and had 46% completion rate, wasn't it?
Yeah, something
Pretty
like
much
that. It had a good
in the
solid
high
completed
40s.
completion.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying it has to be 40%. I'm saying that like 20% should have been a minimum, in my
Right.
opinion. Like at least
That's
a
fair.
fifth of the fan base beat the game, whereas other people went on. And while I can't agree that Xbox, the Game Pass, really promotes that, and Brent, this comes back to old conversations we've had where it's like, yeah, how do they make their money? By keeping gamers continually distracted so they can never quit. Like I quit my Game Pass if I'm not playing anything on Game Pass. Most people don't because they'll find something else to eat their time. And suddenly you're jumping between 4 games all on Game Pass. And instead of buying the games outright, you're just like, nah, it's cheaper just to pay $15 and play them at my
Mhm.
leisure. And so I get that, but it's like I still expect. I played
Mhm.
Monster Hunter Rise is on the Game Pass, and I've gotten every achievement for that before Sunbreak.
Really?
And that is so linear. That's literally just so long as you beat monsters, you get these. And yeah, even that was kind of sad. So sorry, I'm monopolizing, and I could
No.
go on and on, but
Monster Hunter Rise is on Game Pass? That's
yep,
interesting. I didn't
got
know.
Monster Hunter Rise on Game Pass. You ever want to play, bro? I'm down. I am ready. I mean, we're waiting
Hey,
for Sunbreak
I
coming
I
out.
I love that game. So I only played it on my Switch, but I didn't know it was on Game Pass. So
Do you
I
want to
gotta
play
look
on the
into it.
Switch? Because my wife and I play on the Switch still. We have not finished Sunbreak because we go at a very slow pace. We play like once every weekend if we can. We haven't made it to the Risen Elders just yet. We're just before them, but we did just jump on and fight Amatsu because I fought that back in Portable Third. And so I was like, oh yeah, I'm down for an Amatsu fight. And it was so great. Anyway, man, if you ever want to play on either of them, man, hit me up. Like,
Hey, I
I
got you,
love
man.
Monster Hunter.
Good.
Anyways, you guys, we've been chatting here for about an hour. Do you guys have any final thoughts on anything that we've discussed today?
Juicy J, I got a question.
There you go.
Okay. Who's your favorite boss in Hi-Fi Rush? I gotta know. I'm sorry. I gotta know.
No,
I gotta know.
no. So hands down, my favorite boss fight in Hi-Fi Rush was QA 100.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's a very basic and simple boss, but it was hilarious leading up to it. And like the
Mm-hmm.
fight had a great track to it on both the with 1 million from 9 Inch Nails and the other track that plays if you're doing the streamer mode. I
Too
really
big to fail.
enjoy that because of the lead up, the fight, and the cutscene afterwards. I know that's weird.
It
I
is.
love all the bosses, and I wish there was a boss rush mode where I could just go in and fight them and not play an hour's worth of time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would say that was one of my favorites. I know it sounds stupid, but dude, I don't know. I love that. I like defense. Like that's good. That's good. I like how
I
they
love
taste. Like oh, that's bad. You know. And it's just like
Yeah, no, man, I
it was a
get it.
really good introduction to the character. So what about you? What's your favorite boss?
Well, first off, man, I get it with QA 1 mil. I think he's the perfect tutorial boss. Like perfect to. I wasn't until I got the QA 1 mil. I was kind of like, oh, okay, this is gonna be that type of game. That was good.
Kamoshida is the perfect tutorial boss. Kamoshida is the perfect tutorial boss.
He's a great boss too, man. But QA 1 mil, he's legit. He's a fun fight. But for me though, and Brent, brother, this is what. Sorry, Brent, brother, this is why I need you to get just a little further in Eye by Rust. Because if you can just power through, you will legitimately get to one of the most entertaining bosses in a long time. I'm
gonna take my Game Pass time with it. I'm gonna play it like an Xbox player and just kind of take forever with it. And bounce around other Xbox games.
If I take QA 100 out of it, because like I said, it is also the fact that I believe it's one of the best tutorial bosses you fight. I put Kamoshida in the same category because what it did in both those fights is make you utilize the aloof ways that you should be able to beat people, like make it to where he punches his hand against his face, finding different ways to do more damage.
Unless you have Izanagi no Akami Pikaro.
But if I were to take them all out, I'd have to say my favorite boss fight was actually the one just for that with Mimosa. I like the whole stage thing. I love the pop culture references. I love the music like leading up to her. But then the song. And mind you, I love Roquefort. I love the whole Wolfgang symphony. Fifth Symphony. I love that music.
Oh wait, hey Brent, we're not spoiling too much for you. You don't care? No, you don't care.
Not with a game like that.
I'm just trying to bring up the music. They're fun fights, and so if I were to take him out of it, I'd say that but Roquefort's a close second. Now what? Okay, so I know we got to ask one more. What was your favorite fight, or I guess cutscene in the thing? You got that?
Well, okay. Yes, I do. I'm gonna add into that, but I just want to say Roquefort, I think, is the best fight, like the overall best fight, because it has the only song in the game that feels almost incomplete without the without the guitar strums that come when you hit the boss. Like Wolfgang while hitting the boss is epic. And I think it has some of the best cutscenes too. So that's just me. I think Mimosa has the best music to any fight in the game.
And that was my focus. If you notice with QA, I love the music, and I loved Roquefort's too, and it was really good. But my gosh, man,
as you can, dude. And you know what? I know that song too, so my ears perked right up. I was like, oh shit, let's go. I was ready for Mimosa, man. That was awesome. But I think Rekka is also in contention for best song, but I don't mean the song that they use in the not streamer mode. I think the one they use in streamer mode is in contention for the best song.
You like Captives over gosh dog it, I can't remember now.
It's the complete opposite. That's how I
remember. It's Captives is the streamer mode one, because I actually do like that song over the main one. But I can't remember what the main one's name is because I don't listen to it. I do have the soundtrack download though, both that and the streamer mode music. It's
free fantastic. Because Free Radicals, Captive Normals, it's the complete opposite.
Free Radicals, there we go.
But I think Captive Normals, it might be Rekka's song, but that's Chai's theme though. Like that theme just resonates with Chai so much that I was just like, okay, it's go time. Come on, Chai. You got this, dog. But I like this. It's nice to talk to someone about this, man. I got one last thing though. In response to what you said, best cutscene, it's this scene where right after you finished with I was about to say Zanzo, you get captured, and then before you start the next chapter, you you kind of feel like, oh, everything is okay, everyone's all happy and stuff, and then everyone just starts. Because you know that's a reference to something.
Huh?
I was just saying that I didn't expect a freaking Twin Peaks reference.
Oh, I didn't know that was a reference. I
Yeah, it
just love
was,
it.
dog. It's Twin Peaks. Look it up. It's actually really funny.
I am, and I will tell.
Hello.
Yep. I'm still here.
Oh, I thought I heard a cutout on audio.
So, no, I'm seeing a comparison of the Twin Peaks reference.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's dope. So my favorite scene is just before the cannon.
Just before the Xeno Gears reference. Yep.
Okay,
That was
yeah. That was amazing, Chai. The best thing I've ever seen. Like. Anyway, I'm sorry. Now this is derailed. I'm sorry, Brent, but we're talking
No,
about
it's just
No,
okay.
just the game of the year. So I mean, it's not a big deal to you right now. We're gonna have to wait. But no, I'm just kidding.
the thing is, Brent has told me that he likes it for a Game Pass game, which is honestly a little more than I was expecting. I genuinely think that by the time he plays a little more, he maybe, just maybe, might say that he genuinely likes it. Maybe.
He made me.
Maybe.
He brought up. We talked a little bit about his feelings on the combat style, and I don't know if I've told you this yet, Britt, or not. But I literally asked. I had to tell a client, like, get out of my office. I've got to argue. It's like, what? Like, go. Like, we're done. I was like, how dare you say that? Like, I don't mind. I don't mind opinion. I told you I don't mind opinions, but when you make it a statement like this particular aspect is terrible. It's like, okay, you're gonna have to show me, sir, because like. But it was funny actually. Like, so we were done, and that person was just talking. Anyways, I was like, "Please get out of my office. I got to argue now. Like it's time. Like it's time."
Yo,
But no,
that
I
happened.
really respect the fact that he's playing the game because it. I do feel everyone should play it, and also I want his opinion on it because now that I've let the honeymoon stage of Hi-Fi Rush die down, I'm looking at it again to be like, okay, if we're gonna make the statement, it's Game of the Year. Let's look at it like a Game of the Year contender. I definitely think
Mhm.
the Hi-Fi Rush sets a precedent for Redfall to do good. I think it set a precedent for this year that, hey, Xbox, you can produce pretty good games. This is a great start. Let's see what the rest of the year holds.
Mm.
And so that's why I'm kind of weighing heavier on Redfall. It's like, guys, you can't fail after that. Like
Yeah.
you really have to keep it going. You can't fail in the second quarter. But that's a me thought. So
No, you're absolutely right, dog. You're absolutely right.
If we're gonna do this, Jeremiah, tell him that the platforming sucks.
No. Okay, so the platforming aspect of that game sucks. When you don't, even when understanding the platforming reasoning. If you've ever noticed in the levels, it seems like you can't jump as far or dash as fast or move because you're moving to the beat. Even your jumps they have to make sure that when you land, when you jump, you have the ability to jump on beat or to land on beat or do different things like that, which is fine. But the perspective they give you while trying to keep that, so you can always see your characters always on beat, makes it really hard to maneuver when you've got moving platforms and like a lot of pitfalls.
I
Um,
okay. You're
good.
no. I'm saying that. And Brent, my brother, I've always said because of the big thing that happened is that we got into a huge thing about how like the platforming in Hi-Fi Rush sucks. And I don't I okay, I think it might be because, mind you, I put damn near 50 hours into Hi-Fi Rush right now. So I've gotten weirdly good at playing the game, but I recognize that the platforming is very much so the weakest part of the game. It's
Hmm.
like, compared to everything else, it's not that great. But I feel like it's just something where you gotta, because I've played some awful platformers that are far less responsive and much more difficult to get a grasp on than Hi-Fi Rush. Like, it's not great, but it just requires like more. It requires more time, and it requires you to really get good at the beat. I mean, there are definitely some sections that are like horrible. I remember one section near the very opening of the game with like these like moving platforms and like lightning that holds them there.
And the light,
Yeah,
and I was like, I know
I get,
exactly where you're talking about because each one of them do a different sequence, you know, and you'll have to learn that from a perspective of straight up third person humping his back. Yes, like
Mhm.
I'm not not like straight up on his back like we're doing a third person shooter, but too close for me to be able to see everything in its entirety. You know, I remember that one gave
Exactly.
me a lot of feelings.
I I died more. I died more at that part than I did in any of the combating.
Bro, and it
So
hurts your feelings when you actually do make the jump correctly, but you dash out of reflex. Like,
Yeah, buddy.
I do that still when I go back to the game and like I've made the jump, but I thought I didn't make the jump, so and then I just dashed off the bus. Like, of course, that's how it
Mhm.
is.
yeah,
Yeah,
Anyways,
I mean,
let's go ahead and wrap this up. It's getting late for me here. So I guess those were our final thoughts was Hi-Fi Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush, baby, play it today. Like Xbox, complete
play.
it, please.
Come to the conclusion. It's if it clicks for you, it really freaking click. That's the best thing I can say about it.
There we go.
All right.
Mhm.
Well, I don't really have
Brent,
anything more to add.
Brent, one last thing.
Yes.
Juicy J, mate, are you on Instagram? You on you got
We're
something I
doing
can follow you on?
we're doing Let's Chat. We talk games, movies, all things in between, man. You can catch us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter at Dude Let's Chat. You can
That's
catch
his
us on your
spiel.
podcast platforms. Man, you can get
Fantastic.
like Juicy J, Hey Ice, and J and L. We just do our thing.
Got you. Okay, man.
All right.
Got you.
Well, thank you guys for joining me. I'm gonna go watch some anime.
Mhm.
Oh, when we get done here, I'll tell you the game that I play with Jalen. He loves it. All right.
Yeah.
I'll catch you all later.